everyone, and welcome to a new tutorial. So in today's video I would like to talk a little bit about colour mixing. Now for a lot of printmakers, they will find colour mixing or mixing their own colours up a little bit daunting, so we'll just use the colour straight from the tube. So it could be because they're not quite sure how to mix the colour that they want, or they end up mixing far too much up and waste a lot of ink, so they end up just using colour from the tube. Now, a little bit of mixing your own colour up is to do with practice, so the more you do, the better you will become. But there are a few things I'm going to suggest. So the first thing is buy yourself a really good book on colour. I'm going to recommend my personal favourite in the comments below, or in the description of this video. And I'm going to go practicing doing a colour wheel. And this colour wheel is what I'm going to show you next. So starting from basics, every single colour in the world is made up of the primary colours. So the primary colours are red, yellow and blue. So every single colour is made up from these three colours. And then you've got your black and then your white. Now the black is made up from mixing red, yellow and blue together to make your black. Black is also sometimes used to darken colours, but in this video I'm not going to be using black to darken my colours. In a separate video I will do a tutorial all about mixing and using black, so I'm just going to put that to one side. You also got white. Technically white is not considered a colour, but without it we can't get our pastel colours, or they're called tints. So we use white to make more pastel shades of colour. So in this video I'm going to create a colour wheel, and this will give you a really good foundation of how colours are mixed and how colours work with each other. And we're going to be talking about secondary colours and complementary colours. So I'll see you in a bit for a colour wheel tutorial. So I've created a colour wheel. So I've divided it up into 12 sections, and I've put my primary colours, so I've got my red, my yellow and my blue. So starting with the pure basics, so mixing red and yellow will give you orange, yellow and blue will give you green, and blue and red will give you a purple colour. These colours might look a bit dark on the film, sorry about that. Don't know if you can see that a bit better, but they are, believe me, they are green and purple there. So you can continue adding, so like with the orange, I can continue adding more red to start getting a more orangey red, or I can continue adding yellow to get more of a yellowy orange. And I'm going to be using like a 50-50 ratio. So I'm just going to do this section here. So I'm just doing equal amounts of colour. So the more yellow I put into the orange, it will give me a more yellowy orange. So when I put that on there, hopefully you can see on the camera, it's got more of a yellowy tone to it. And then the same with the red. If I put more red into it, and again about 50-50, it would be more of a reddy tone. So I could eventually, if I added more and more red to that orange, it will eventually become red again. And the same with this side. The more I continue to add yellow, eventually it will go back to yellow. So you could do a massive wheel and just try and get like a seamless blend going all the way around. So I'm going to do the same with my blue and my yellow and green and purple to get the rest of these filled in. So already you can see there's a wide range of colours just by using my three primaries of red, yellow and blue. So now, to make them darker, people would usually use black, but the traditional way of making colours slightly darker is using its complementary colour or the colour opposite to it on the wheel. So to make my red darker, you use a little bit of green. So, you're going to take a bit of red, take a bit of my green, and then when I take it on top, it becomes quite a dark browny kind of green, red I mean. And the same with the green. If I wanted to make the green darker, I would add in a bit of red. I'm not going to put so much in this time. I think I put a bit too much green into that one. And there you get a darker green just by adding a little bit of red. So, and the same applies with all of these. So if I wanted to make this darker, I'll add a little bit of this, and vice versa. And the same with the yellow, I'll add a little bit of purple, and vice versa. So I'm going to do the rest of these now. So there you go, you've got another wide range of colours. This one has gone a little bit green because the purple is quite blue, so it's made it a bit more of a green. So if there was more red in the purple, it would go more of that ochre, slightly more browny colour. Now, again, same as with this direction, if I was to add more yellow into it, eventually it should go back to yellow. If I had more purple into it, it would go more into purple. Now, for the hillaring, I'm going to add white to these colours, and this is what will give you what's called a tint. So with the yellow, so by adding white to it, it will give you a much paler version of the yellow. So I'm going to do that for all these middle colours and add a bit of white. So there you go. So again, you get a nice range of colours just by adding white. And again, the more white that's added to it, the lighter it will become. The more of the primary or the secondary colour added to it, the darker it will become. You can also add white to these colours as well. So if I added to the dark, a bit of white to the darker green, you get a different shade as well. So you can get a wide range of colours. So all of those colours have been made just by using red, yellow and blue. So the possibilities are endless. And the key to when mixing colours, not mixing too much up, is say just mix a tiny bit up first, and then if you need to increase it, just add to it. So say like this colour was roughly 50-50, so mix up your colour first, and then you can always bulk it up by keeping that same ratio. So that's a tip of just mixing up the colour you want first and then bulk it up later. So just have a go at doing the colour wheel and play around with seeing what happens when you add more white to it, what happens when you add more of the opposite colour to a colour. Just have a bit of fun with it and let me know how you get on.